Hello and welcome to this week's Talent Talks. As you know, this series of webinars and podcasts get behind the scenes of the world of work. We find out about the options open to young people when making these important decisions at the beginning of their careers by talking to employers and representatives of a wide range of different industries across the country. And today we're exploring the world of GSP, or Government Security Professions, with the help of Chloe, Ros and Mike. So thank you all very much for joining us. Now, GSP is such a huge thing. Maybe we could begin with personal introductions just so we can understand a little bit about where you fit. So, Ros, can I come to you first? Firstly, welcome. Secondly, tell us a little bit about you.
So I work in what's called the Government Security Profession team, and what we do is take responsibility for the bringing in and growing of talent.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Mike?
Hi, I'm Mike Fell, and I'm the Deputy Chief Security Officer for HM Revenue and Customs, and I'm also the Head of Cyber Operations, a team that has had over 5 years of apprentices coming through our ranks.
Great, so you've got lots of experience then of how the apprenticeship scheme works in reality. Brilliant, I'm sure we'll come back to that one. And Chloe?
Hi, so I am my name is Chloe Hillyard. I'm one of the current level 4 government security profession cybersecurity apprentices, and I'm currently working in the Department for Work and Pensions.
Brilliant, and how far through the programme are you, Chloe?
So I'm just had my year anniversary there at the end of January.
Excellent, okay. Good, well we'll come back to you in a minute then. You can tell us what it's like when you're actually doing the apprenticeship. Ros, can I come back to you to begin with? Because GSP, Government Security Professions, is so big, I find it actually quite difficult to bend my brain round the myriad of different things that you have to do to protect everything to do with government. So could you just tell us a bit about it, please?
It is massive. It's over 11,000 professionals. So government security is all about protecting the citizens and providing vital public services by understanding and managing security risk. But what does that actually mean? Well, for cyber, we provide the security that enables the systems and the data needed for all the many services that government provides, whether it's passports or benefits, as well as protecting our secrets from threat. We are the largest security operation in the UK. Now, there's quite a shortage of cyber skills across central government, not just in the UK, in fact, but much wider. Now, this might be because people just don't understand what it is, so they don't choose to go into it. They don't realise that actually they could have a really interesting and rewarding career. So what we need is a really good mix of people, because we need the best brains, the most diverse thinking to counteract the threats that hit us every single day, which can come from anyone, anywhere, and try to prevent those great services running as they should. So we've set up a level 4 and a cyber degree apprenticeship, and they're a fantastic entry route into government cyber.
And I think one of the interesting things...
They're great because...
Sorry, just going to say, before we get into the programme in too much detail, just give us a few examples of the breadth then of the kind of assets that you are protecting, because cyber really only gets into the headlines, doesn't it, when something goes wrong? But actually, when you guys are doing an amazing job, we actually don't hear anything at all. And therefore, you can almost forget that this work is happening in the background. So just paint a bit of a picture for those different assets that you are protecting on behalf of the UK.
So the assets could range from FCDO, which is a Foreign Commonwealth Office, which is in the news today, right the way through to Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, where Mike is going to explain what they do.
Yeah, so I'll jump in on that one. So HM Revenue and Customs is charged with bringing in the over £600 billion of revenue every year that pays for all of the vital public services in the United Kingdom. So in a way, we're providing a service that enables all of the other organisations that we'll talk about later on, and all of those assets indirectly. What that looks like in practice is a really broad range of things that apprentices are being involved in within HMRC. So, you know, we talk of the term assets, but what we mean in practice is everybody in the UK is potentially scammed by a HMRC branded phishing email or text message. and former apprentices and current apprentices work really hard to stop those attacks. Similarly, they work really hard to protect the 400 odd public services that HMRC delivers, from international customs trade that is allowing lorries and ferries to move across our border night and day, through to the self-assessment peak and the tax returns that many people contribute as well. So a really broad range of different things, some of which are very technically specific, some of which are really kind of tangible and I think make sense in terms of stopping scams that we each unfortunately see.
So that's HMRC. Chloe, from a DWP point of view, I mean, you're presumably different department, but similar threats that you're trying to help manage?
Yes, absolutely. In the DWP, we're protecting, I think it's maybe upwards of 135 billion pounds in payment services a year. So that's a huge amount of money that's going to the most vulnerable in our society. The misdirection of those funds could mean vulnerable people or families that rely on those benefits, child maintenance or personal independence or retirement fund. If they go without, that's a tragedy. But then also when you think about the amount of citizens that we serve and that access our services, we hold all that data. That's a huge amount of data. And it makes us a massive target for organised criminal groups who would love to steal identities to commit fraud. So DWP is a big target. So there's a lot of cyber work going on.
Oh, it's really interesting when you make it that kind of personal. We are talking then about protecting families day to day to make sure they get the money that they are expecting. It's a really interesting way of putting it. So, Ros, coming back to you, we obviously heard a little bit about HMRC and DWP and some of the examples there. Could you tell us about some of the other departments and maybe the specific issues that they're dealing with?
Yes, well, picking up on what Chloe said about identity, imagine you want to go on holiday this summer and you're applying for a passport. That is also an area where we have to protect a massive amount of personal detail, but also we have to make sure that the website that you complete when you want to apply works. So there's always the issue around finding a balance. The other side of the coin isn't systems, but perhaps events. Setting up an event where there are many international politicians perhaps coming would also require our protection.
So it actually extends then to physical buildings as well, and as just the kind of the online element, as it were.
Yes, cyber is just one part of government security.
Great. So, Chloe, let me come...
look at the physical or personal.
Sorry, Ros, I interrupted you there.
That's fine.
Chloe, let me come to you then. What was it that attracted you to this? Because actually, talking about it now, it sounds really interesting and intriguing, but before today's conversations, I hadn't really thought about it in those terms. So what was it that sparked your interest?
Yeah, so I actually come from a completely non-technical background. So I did a history degree at the University of Sheffield, then worked for years in hospitality, just not knowing what I wanted to do career-wise. And I was actually working as a nanny when COVID began. So that time then on furlough gave me real time to sit down and do a bit of soul searching and really think, right, what do I want to do? And I've always wanted a career with purpose that kind of serves other people. So I think I'm a real kind of being into history and politics and current affairs. I realised kind of even since around 2016, it was really coming into my consciousness, like the ubiquitousness of cyber and how, it was impacting every sphere of society. And that kind of interest had just gradually grown, kind of seeing the impact that it can have on, global geopolitics. We've had the Russia report, seeing election interference by government state actors. You've seen the attack on the Ukrainian power grid. So I think for me, it was a bit of a eureka moment, kind of sitting there and being like, whoa, like this is one of the biggest challenges that like my generation and future generations are going to face is in cyberspace. So that's definitely what kind of triggered that interest in cyber. And kind of from there, it was really just doing a lot of self-learning, picking up a lot of online courses and just trying to really further that interest.
And Mike, when you kind of hear Chloe's perspective on it, do you think that's typical of some of the young people that you've worked with over the years?
Absolutely. I think whichever government department it is that apprentices work in, there's that real sense of mission around the importance of what's being done here, combined with that earn while you learn approach. You know, it's a deeply complex topic in some spaces, but it's actually a very accessible topic in many areas, and that's what the apprenticeship schemes really kind of blend is that accessibility and a diverse and inclusive intake, which gets the best minds with different thoughts to tackle these really knotty problems, and also then provides a real broad range of different career trajectories from, you know, that single cyber apprenticeship route. So yeah, absolutely endorse and you know, have really proud to have a number of people within HMRC's teams telling really similar stories and different stories about, you know, the opportunities and importance of it.
And I guess it's a unique environment, isn't it? Because cyber is one of those things that unless you're dealing with today's threats, you're not dealing with the real threat. So actually doing this as an apprenticeship where you are dealing with things as they're coming in the door or overnight, that surely must give you the foundations for an amazing career. Mike, let me come to you with that. Well,
I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Chloe can probably talk powerfully to this as well. But what I will say, you know, I've championed apprenticeship schemes within government, and particularly in HM Revenue and Customs for 5-6 years now, because we had a gap to fill. We knew that we needed people to undertake these really important roles, and actually having now 5-6 years of experience, it's great to see where former apprentices have gone on to, and some of that has been real people focused, you know, mentoring, coaching current apprentices, sharing that experience. Some have gone down really deeply technical routes where they are, you know, literally the best in their space, looking for threats and kind of pushing the way. So there's a real range of opportunities, not only in kind of core security, but IT, people management, and as Chloe's alluded to, kind of the more geopolitical bits and the threat landscape and risk as well.
Brilliant. So, Chloe, let me come to you. Tell us a bit more about then what the apprenticeship is like. So tell us about the qualification, how you're studying, and how you're finding it.
Yeah, so when I first started the apprenticeship, coming from that non-technical background, it was definitely extremely challenging. And when I joined the DWP, and well, this is kind of a tech thing as well generally, but it was really death by acronyms. It was just a whole other language to me that I didn't understand. So there was a lot to learn. It was a huge learning curve, but kind of how the learning is structured, I find really suited me. I'm a kinesthetic learner, so kind of 80% of the learning is on the job and contributing to your team and taking part in, you know, live projects. And then the other 20% is off the job learning. So if you think of that in like a week, you know, you've got your 5 work days, 20% of that is kind of equal to 1 day. And so that 1 day then is when you have more structured learning. So that could be through training courses with your training provider or, you know, self-study. So I found, even though at the beginning I was a complete novice, I mean, from where I was then to where I am now, but just recognizing like the speed of learning in that way, you just learn so fast because you're learning the theory, but then you're applying that straight away on the job. You're cementing that foundational knowledge and you're gaining the skills straight away. So it's just really rapid learning. And so far, I think we have 5 exams. So I've taken and passed 3 of my exams. And then we also have a portfolio of work that you put together, and that's just basically evidence of kind of what you've done on the job and the projects that you've been involved in, just to really evidence that you've actually done those things. And then when you come to endpoint assessment, which hopefully I'll be coming towards in the next few months, so you submit your portfolio, and you have then an endpoint assessment interview where an assessor really kind of probes into that portfolio that you've submitted, and it gives you an opportunity to talk around all those projects a bit more. And then also you have a week-long synoptic project, so you just have a week, you're given a challenge or a scenario, and then you work on that. So I've really, from my style of learning, I've thoroughly enjoyed the apprenticeship kind of learning experience.
When you look at other people that maybe you went to school with, or friends, how do they view kind of you doing an apprenticeship? Because I'm still not convinced that schools really understand that apprenticeships are as good as other routes, say, for example, full-time university. But listening to what you've just described, this is not an easy option, is it?
No, no. And I actually feel really, really passionately about advocating for apprenticeships. So having done a university degree at Russell Group University and now sitting here a year into an apprenticeship, apprenticeships are absolutely brilliant. And I have to say, when I was a school leaver, I had a complete misconception. I just didn't have an understanding at all what apprenticeships were. And like you say, in schools, I don't think that school teachers or careers advisors are doing enough to really inform school leavers and young adults on what apprenticeships actually are and the value they have. But I think that just stems from kind of the stigma that surrounds taking an apprenticeship. And I'm not going to lie, it's been a long time since I was a school leaver. So when I was applying for this apprenticeship, there was a little part of me that was like, oh gosh, like telling people, oh, I'm going on an apprenticeship. There was a little bit of embarrassment, and then I felt silly for that embarrassment, and I feel really silly for that embarrassment now because I completely see the value of apprenticeships. I can't advocate for them anymore.
Brilliant. So that's obviously it's a level 4 apprenticeship you're working through. Mike, there are other routes through as well, though, I think, aren't there?
So, sorry, David, could you just repeat that?
Yeah, sorry. So Chloe was telling us about her level 4 apprenticeship, but I mean, there are other programs as well, Mike. And I think could you just tell us a bit about those as well?
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, first of all, just reflect on that. I think some of the prejudice around the language of apprenticeship is something that I've gone through as well, and just want to kind of put it out there as somebody that similarly went to it through a university degree. I am now in a really difficult place of genuinely thinking, if I were myself 20 years ago, for me it'd be a no-brainer. You know, the really competitive salaries with a real kind of structured educational piece, very similar to that which you would get at a university course, combined with the fact that you are surrounded by people who are experts in this, who certainly in my team love making the time and every day make the time to help shape you. It's almost like a continuous kind of one-to-one university relationship that I was only fortunate enough to get kind of 1 hour a week, if I was lucky 2 hours a week while I was at university. Yeah. These people on the schemes are getting them all the time. So yes, there's the level 4 which Chloe's spoken to. I'm really pleased as well that we're now seeing former level 4 apprentices move on to the level 6, and we've just signed up to taking people on scale onto what we call the level 6, which is a degree level apprenticeship. So again, to shoot down any prejudice around it, you've got the best of both worlds. You're getting a degree, a really kind of well recognised degree, as well as everything that we're saying about the kinesthetic, immersive learning, supported by people that have got the time and will tell you what it means. And as well, I think the challenge with academic learning, I mean, I studied pure security in a university context, which was great. I learned the theory about how high walls should be, how sharp barbed wire should be, and how bright your floodlights need to be. But actually, at no point did I get the opportunity of doing that on the ground with it. And the same is true in cyber. You know, YouTube and Google and other platforms are available, but they can teach you a lot about the theory in the same way a university course could. But it's not until you get your hands on the tooling that we actually use in large organizations and the networks that we use. It's not until you get your hands on those that you can actually prove that you know what you're doing. And that's where the level 6 really comes into its own, that, you know, nobody is going to be graduating from that, completing that, exposed to either not knowing the theory or not knowing the practice. Absolutely, people are going to have all of that.
Mike, let me then confront you with another, I think, misconception, and that is that the civil service is based in London and only recruits middle-class people from private schools. I'm exaggerating to make the point, but it's those kind of historic views of what the civil service are. I mean, they're just wrong, aren't they?
Point blank wrong. Yeah, I say that as a senior civil servant who has a career has had a career outside of London. I say that with, you know, teams of nearly 100 people working in this space, that none of whom are based in London. I maybe aren't best placed to comment to shattering some of the stereotypes. As you can see, a kind of white middle-aged male, but really pleased as well to say that I am not typical of the teams. We've got really diverse teams, and yeah, most definitely not a range of government departments, not only being based out of London, but increasingly being co-located in cities like Leeds, where there is a huge amount of opportunity as careers develop to bounce around between different government departments in a really easy way. And I say that I've had to move a number of times to be able to work in the Ministry of Defence, the Foreign Office, on the Olympics and in HMRC, whereas now I'm based in an office in Leeds that within a mile there's at least kind of 6 or 7 different government departments that are doing cyber that will provide career trajectories for people. So in other words, if I'm a youngster in a school pretty much anywhere in the country, there'll be an office close to me that I could join potentially. Ross, I think we were trying to talk to that one.
Yeah, I was just going to say precisely that. When we offer places on the scheme, they are to some extent targeted at particular departments in particular locations because they've chosen to participate that year. But as people complete the scheme, they could find they work in any department, in any location where the departments are actually present. And we've got at least 40 government departments with lots of buildings. So Manchester or Sheffield or perhaps down in the southwest. Lots of variety there.
Brilliant. So there we go. Another misconception being firmly addressed. So let me just come on to career progression. And Mike, you've just given us a few things there that you've been fortunate enough to do. Chloe, where do you think you're going? So you're working towards the end of this apprenticeship. Where do you want to go next?
So in the short term, I'm very focused on the short term and just passing my apprenticeship. So that's where my main focus is going. In the long term, I definitely want to stay in the civil service 100%. I want to be in the public sector. I really believe in the value of the work, and it's purposeful, it's rewarding. And so ideally, I would like to be applying for a permanent role in the DWP. I'm not sure what exact role yet. I've had initial conversations with my line manager and kind of the head of the department that I work for. So at the minute, the space I work within, so I work within DWP Digital, and DWP, by the way, is massive. There's over 80,000 staff, so it's hard to kind of explain the organisation, but I work within digital, and then underneath that, the business unit I'm in is called Hybrid Cloud Services. So it's a bit of a more engineering focused security role that I've been in for the past year. But despite that, I've still been able to get exposure and experience to other cyber role families. So like security monitoring, vulnerability management, threat intelligence. But yeah, there's still some things that I haven't got my hands on yet. So I think I would be probably more interested in a non-technical role, so maybe going down the policy route. But yeah, no, I still have loads to explore, but the space I'm in right now is very cloud focused, and I am very interested in cloud security. So in the short term, I definitely would like to get a role where I'm getting to learn a lot more about those kind of cloud native security tools and just cloud security in general. I think it's a really exciting space to be in going forward.
And Mike, if I come to you and ask you a similar question, really, the apprentices that you've worked with over the last 5 years, where have they ended up? Because again, one of the things we forget is the civil service is so huge with so many different opportunities once you're inside it.
Yeah, that's right. So incredibly fortunate that a vast majority have decided to stay within our existing team, which I think is kind of a reflection upon hopefully the support that we give people, and also how reliant we are on graduates of these schemes for things. So a number we've got people working in threat hunting as former apprentices, working in our consumer protection, doing the brand protection and anti-phishing work. On the managerial side, we've got people that are more interested in the people management of cyber analysts that are doing that. We've also got a number who have moved on to other government departments. So some that have gone over to DWP indeed. And also some have taken up opportunities in the private sector. You know, we're building transferable skills. And I think as large government departments, we've got a responsibility to build the security profession to keep the whole of the UK safe. So whilst a lot do choose to stay within the public sector, like Chloe, kind of liking the mission, liking that purpose, a sense of purpose of keeping UK government safe, the skills are absolutely transferable. And if you are more interested in a range of private sector opportunities, then people have been successful there too.
Brilliant, thank you very much indeed. So, Ros, let me come back to you now to talk about the scheme, how you get onto it, because getting close to hiring time. So, how does somebody find out more and apply to join the programme?
Finding out more, there's going to be loads of advertising around across social media and the civil service careers website from tomorrow. I think the best way is to actually look at some of that, to have a good look at the eligibility as well before you apply, but also to get in touch if people have any queries and ask us about it. We are really keen to have people join us who are interested, as well as have a relevant qualification or experience. I can give you the very basics now if you'd like to know.
Yeah, it'd be good to know, because I mean, Chloe gave us one example, but I mean, so you're looking for school leavers, but not just school leavers by the sounds of it.
Not at all, no. We are looking for anybody who's interested, actually, and so long as they can demonstrate that interest, and for level 4 have got 5 GCSEs, including some form of IT qualification or experience that they can talk about. If, for example, they like playing about with setting up a system at home, that shows an understanding of the system. For the cyber degree, we're looking for, not surprisingly, a little bit more, because it is an accredited degree through a university. But again, it's around proving relevant experience as well as having 120 UCAS points. Also, I should add, you'd have to be a UK national.
I mean, and it is, particularly if you look at that degree equivalent, and it's an amazingly attractive proposition, because university, the issues around debt are pretty well known, but as the alternative to racking up the £50,000 worth of debt, you get to join the civil service. And I think from memory, it's not an unattractive starting salary, is it?
That's right. If you're outside London, you start on 23,850, 27,500 in London. But there are a lot of other civil service benefits around that. And if you do the cyber degree, which is 4 years long, about halfway through, you'll get the opportunity to be promoted and your salary will go up accordingly. And it's worth bearing in mind, once you do become a cyber professional, you are on a very decent pay scale, and you do get a lot of other support as well in terms of your career development, which not everybody else can offer.
So really compelling. Not only do we get all those benefits that Mike was telling us about in terms of learning with other people who are genuinely there and dealing with the stuff day to day, it's all live learning. You avoid the university debt, you get a degree, and you also get paid £20,000 a year. I mean, why wouldn't you? I think is pretty much the only question you can ask, isn't it? So let me just come back to Chloe. What else do you think we could or should have talked about which we haven't covered? One thing actually that is of interest to me is how you get on with the others in your group, in your cohort, because that is maybe one thing that I think has been quite interesting with the pandemic. Do you feel like you're connected to other apprentices, or are you looking forward to getting back to the office? How does it feel?
So COVID was definitely a big barrier. It really was. It's definitely hard to kind of break the ice behind a computer screen. But as a cohort, so there was 15 of us GSP apprentices placed within the Department for Work and Pensions, and we were all kind of in different areas, but there's been a massive sense of like camaraderie between all of us, and we've all definitely leaned upon each other when we've had difficult moments in the apprenticeship or haven't been able to maybe get the experience that we need in the area that we're in. Another apprentice has been able to say, well, hey, I'm working on a project that includes that, let me bring you in. And so we've really, really relied and depended on each other. And yeah, no, I've loved kind of the relationships, and I've built up lifelong friends. But also a really key thing is kind of the diversity within our cohort. It ranges from literally there was 18-year-old school leavers, and by the way, I'm super jealous of them because I just think I wish 10 years ago I would have been 18 walking into this apprenticeship. With kind of the job security and the career progression opportunities that it provides, and they're absolutely smashing the apprenticeship. Some of them have already applied for permanent roles and been successful, not even in just the pay grade, one pay grade above and two pay grades above, so everyone's doing really, really well. But yeah, it's ranged from 18-year-old school leavers to then there's like people in their mid-30s with kids and families. But one great thing about our cohort was I actually think there's more women. I actually think there's more of us than there is the guys. So yeah, that was a really good thing. So what I would say, any advice to anyone thinking about applying is don't be put off by like the techie stereotype. If you don't fit that, I don't fit that, and I've made it here. So if I can do this, you can absolutely do it. And yeah, apply. We need more women and more Black and minority ethnic people in cyber and in tech. So get applying.
Well, there we go. I don't think anybody could finish on a better note than that. Thank you very much indeed, Chloe, and thank you, Mike and Ros, as well, for making time today to talk. It's been a fascinating conversation. I've learned a load of stuff this morning. Ros will put the link on our website back to the resources you've talked about, and I think there's a great candidate pack as well, which has a lot of information as well for those who are interested. So yes, thank you all three of you for making the time. It's been a really interesting conversation. And thank you to those of you for watching this. We look forward to joining you next time when we do the next Talent Talks.